Tony, thank you so much for coming on the show. An absolute honor and pleasure to have you as part of the show and to have you on. And I, when I think about you and when I think about Oyster, I think about purpose and what it means to be a purpose-driven entrepreneur. I know that Oyster, I believe, is a benefit corporation, correct?
Yes.
Why was that important to you? Maybe we start there. So there's kind of three parts to this question. Why was it important to you to be a purpose-driven entrepreneur? Why was it important to you to have a purpose-driven company? And why a benefits corporation? Sorry to start out with just like three questions.
Amazing. Thank you, Clint, for having me here today. And hello, everybody. Um, I'm calling from the island of Cyprus, where I now live, thanks to remote work. And let's go right in and answer this question. So, why it's important to me to be a mission-driven entrepreneur? Um, Look, I believe in aligning what we believe in with what we do, and having that purpose give me energy. Starting a business is a rough journey for any entrepreneur or most entrepreneurs, and you need that extra motivation. You need to remind yourself why you're here, why you're doing what you're doing. So when you're faced with these challenges, you can be more equipped and more motivated to address them. And yeah, and I believe so. That's why I do it. For me, why I it's important for me. It's really a source of well-being. I want work to be meaningful for me, and why I have to build a company that is mission driven is because I believe in the power of business to transform the world. Today, business is the most important change agent in the world, and it was important to me that I can put in service of that business my skills of building scalable, high growth businesses in technology, and software specifically is really what creates scale. So you can really, by aligning purpose with software, you can amplify your impact. And I have to say, it's great for companies because being a mission driven company enable you to attract the best talent, enable you to create a great culture to retain them, enable you to attract more funding. And I can elaborate why today this is more important and more real than ever. And attract more customers. Around 65% of customers who work with Oyster, and we have over 1,000 customers, they said they picked us because we are mission driven. It was an important factor in their decision making process. And to answer the last piece of the question, why B Corp? And we wanted to be B Corp since day one because we wanted to connect our legal status with our mission. We want to put mission at the center of everything we do, and having this external validation. B Corp is a pretty extensive process. They check about many areas of your business, and we wanted to make sure that there is external body that is monitoring and assessing, are we really mission driven business, and we wanted to make it real.
I guess the follow-up question there is, what is Oyster's mission?
Mm-hmm. Great question. So we are here to empower companies around the world to employ anyone, anywhere. And we do that to make the world more equal and more free. And by more equal, we believe that by democratizing opportunities of employment for people all around the world, specifically in emerging economies, where I don't have access to the same opportunity that you and me have access to, we can really improve things like reduction of brain drain, wealth inequality reduction. There is this famous economist called Brian Kaplan from George Mason University.
Mm-hmm.
He argues in his book Open Borders that if you remove this concept of border from talent mobility, you can triple the world GDP. So that's our mission, and we're very excited about that. We're committed of sending over $1 billion of foreign direct investment into emerging economies by 2024. We have a significant percentage of our business in emerging economies, and these are people that can work from anywhere, and they're working for companies in the Western world and having access to better salary, more flexibility, and exposure to more growth opportunities.
Well, I love this idea of democratizing opportunities. That seems to be like such an important challenge because we don't all start out in the same place, right? And so there's all this like talk, and it's become like political, at least in the United States, around like equality versus equity, and what do they mean, and all these types of things. But for me, equality of opportunity makes all the sense in the world. Yeah, I don't know how anyone would figure out equality of outcome, but equality of opportunity. And I love what you said there, where you said business is the greatest change agent of our time, or something along those lines. That might be paraphrasing what you said. And I agree with that. Why do you think that's true? Because that hasn't always been the case.
Because for a number of reasons. I think first, business in general attracts the best talent. People are really capable of changing the world. They usually gravitate around business organization compared to other type of organizations. And secondly is because it is the biggest economical force in the world. I mean, today businesses has a lot of capital. They move capital. They make investment decisions. They lobby governments to add or remove regulations. They're very powerful. Businesses are very powerful. The vast majority of the world wealth is stuck in assets like businesses. So and within the business, I mean, we can segment that sector. Startups, smaller businesses have much more impact than bigger businesses, because bigger businesses, they have developed cash cows, and it's really hard for them to move away from them. They're stuck in the status quo. Take,
Mm-hmm.
for instance, let's say, name any oil and gas company. I mean, of course, many of them are uh, talking a lot about the future of renewable energy. Some of them are making investment, but over 90% of their revenues and profit comes from oil and gas. So, but you need these upstarts to come and shake these larger organizations through innovation and through innovative business models.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think what you said there is really important and really interesting. For those who are like in college or starting their career and they're thinking like, how do I make the biggest impact in the world? It does seem like entrepreneurship's right up there with like getting into politics or whatever else would be the other options, right? And I love how equal that is, right? Like in entrepreneurship, again, we don't all start the same spot. Some people have far bigger advantages than others when they're starting a company or building a startup, or maybe they have family and friends who can help fund them, all that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, like the best entrepreneurs win, right? And the advantages are super helpful. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, like the best entrepreneurs are going to win. And as you work with companies, in particular startups, what about Oyster helps them win? What about distributed teams? What about remote works helps them win?
Well, today, successful growing businesses, they are successful in growing because of their people, right? Because of the innovation and the talent they attract. And we live in a world where these best talent in the world is in shortage. There are 90 million jobs going unfulfilled in the West in knowledge work, according to BCG, resulting in $8.5 trillion of economical loss.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's regardless of the economical cycle we're in. Our customers keep hiring. 50% of talent on our platform are in R&D, engineers, product developers, and there's not enough of them in developed economies to really fuel the growth that is expected from these economies. So when these companies that really are hungry for this best talent, they need to go find them elsewhere. And when you give them a platform like Oyster that make the world look like one country, they are empowered. They're empowered to find the best talent, to retain the best talent, and to really focus on their growth and creating a great culture instead of focusing on fighting on talent within 20-mile radius from their offices. It also gives them a unique opportunity to create massive amount of diversity in the business. And we all know how much diversity is important, not only for company culture, but also for financial success. more diverse companies succeed more. So when you tap into the global talent pool, you create diversity that resemble the planet Earth. At Oyster, we are 600 people distributed in 80 countries. We have diversity level that is unheard of, and it becomes a very special place to live in, to work in, because it's not even a place; it's virtual. We have no offices,
Yeah.
but it becomes a culture that has no very little biases. Because I remember when my last job was probably 15 years ago as an employee. I was working for this great technology company in the US and UK headquartered, and I was managing their French market, and I was like their French guy, and I wasn't even French at that time. And so they were. I felt that I had to get closer to the headquarters and to be successful. I felt that there was biases on the way they see the world that were not fit for success in my local market in France. I felt like an outsider. And here at Oyster, people since there's no dominant culture, people are coming from all over the world. We have over 100 nationalities. You have a very unique, inclusive workplace that makes people less afraid of being who they are themselves, and that emotional safety creates high level of engagement and fulfillment.
Do you think like this interest and passion you have for, like the whole world kind of being democratized in terms of opportunity and jobs and spreading that, like you said, to 80 countries with 600 employees. Do you think that has anything to do with the way you grew up? I mean, as I understand it, you grew up in Beirut during the Lebanese Civil War in the 80s. And I imagine like I mean, I'm sure you weren't thinking about how do I start a company, right? And distribute all this type of stuff at that point. But I imagine this idea of like, man, how great would it be that if I could live anywhere and have the same opportunity as anyone else in the entire world?
Absolutely, Clint. It has all to do with my personal journey and aligning with that purpose, right? So I left my home country when I was 17 to France to study computer science. And when I got to France, so just to take a step back, Lebanon is one of the most unequal countries in the world. It's a failed state. It's a corrupt government. There's really no serious growth opportunity for the youth there. That's why you have a massive Lebanese diaspora everywhere in the world. That's why the Lebanese cuisine is so widespread around the world. Um, but essentially, when I landed in France and I started studying there, the French government came to me. I wasn't French at that time, and they said they gave me 350 euros per month. Say, why do you guys are giving me money? I'm not even French. And they said, because we want you to focus on your studies. We want you to have equal opportunities with other people and not worry about paying rent. And that touched me really at a deep level. And I realized actually there's a whole different world out there that cares about equal opportunity, but 80% of the world population is living in countries that are not appropriate for human growth. And so, because they rely on this corrupt governments, poor infrastructure, economies, and what they do is they leave their home countries and they brain drain. And many of these economies, they are not able to compete and grow in a healthy way because they're losing their best talent.
Mm-hmm.
So it became really apparent to me in late 2019. I took a year and a half off from my previous business, um, and I was really seeking to clarify my purpose here. And it became evident to me that my purpose is connected to reversing brain drain and addressing some of that inequality in the world.
Why did you choose France to go? I mean, what made you choose that country? Obviously, beautiful country, beautiful people, but out of anywhere you could have gone, why there?
To be honest, I didn't have any other choice, right? So it's not
Uh,
like I had the luxury of
yeah,
choice at that
yeah, yeah.
time. Lebanon was a French colony. French is like a second language. Everybody speaks French. I was fluent in French. I presented my French baccalaureate when I was in Lebanon back when I was 17. So and by accident, I wasn't even planning. My school had a relationship with a university in France, and they came to select few lucky people from the class, and I was on that list. And then suddenly I had, maybe I should seize that opportunity. It really wasn't a planned
Yeah.
move.
Yeah, it's just out of necessity, and I like the idea that I don't like the idea, but you had no choice, right? Like, and sometimes there's some kind of beautiful things that come out of just making the best of the situation that you're in, which obviously you've done. I want to pivot a little bit to like the whole mission of Oyster and the future of work. And I know this is a big topic of debate, particularly in the tech community, but I imagine in every industry, whether, post COVID, we're now post COVID, right? So people can come back to the office, whether they should. And should it be more hybrid, or should they keep doing remote work and all this type of stuff? And it's a real challenge, I think, for a lot of leaders and a lot of CEOs to make this decision of like, hey, do we go hybrid where they're coming in 3 days a week, 2 days a week, the other days they're working from home? How do we do this? How should we think about this? And you, like you mentioned here, you're a fully distributed company in 80 countries. What is your advice? How could anyone replicate that?
It is not that complicated, actually. The things that you need to do to be a successful distributed company is the same thing you need to do to be a great company. So one is you need to intentionally build trust, because you're not seeing the person in seat. As we transition from the industrial revolution to the new age of knowledge work, we inherited from the management techniques and behaviors of that era. When you go to business school, they teach you the stuff that were valid 100 years ago in terms of management. So essentially, you as a manager, you have that chip in your mind that tells you if the person is in seed, that means that the person is productive. So you have to delete that chip and start trusting people more intentionally. And when you default to trusting relationships and behaviors, your team flourishes because they feel that you trust them as a manager. So number one is building trust intentionally is makes you a great company. So whether you're remote or not, but it becomes a necessity for you to do it in a remote environment. In the office, you can get away without that. Secondly, is what is important in building a great distributed company is to be clear about how you work, to define the methods of collaboration and communication. Luckily now there's a lot of technology that enable us to be effective no matter where we are, but you have to code that. You have to spell how do you do meetings, how do you collaborate asynchronously, what tools do you use for what. And by doing so, by being clear about how you work together, you increase the productivity in the business, and you create more predictability in the behavior as a leader, and you create more fulfillment and more engagement as well. Again, whether you're in the office or not, that makes you a great company. So, but being remote forces you to think about how you work. And the third aspect is really around being clear. How do you measure performance? Similar to when we were in the office, we confused presence with performance, but essentially we didn't felt the need necessarily to build sophisticated objective and key result systems that enables you to define what success looks like on an individual level, on a team level, on a company level, and connect all these parameters together. So again, that makes you a great company. So that's what leaders have to do, whether in the office or not. Build trust intentionally, be clear about how you work, and then be clear how you measure success. And that's why distributed company are the companies going to be the best companies of tomorrow. They're gonna have these superpowers, and they're gonna also attract the best talent. When Airbnb announced that they are now a remote company, their career site traffic went 10x in 5 days. Oyster, we used to hire a lot of people. A couple of years ago, we used to receive 13,000 job application per month for a company that is not even a year old, because people wanted to work and wanted to have the freedom, the flexibility, wanted to be in a system that makes them successful no matter what they are.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions based on that. Like, one would be kind of like, let's just get to like the nuts and bolts of things, which is I imagine like software becomes very important, how you manage your team. What software do you use to manage a distributed team that you found? I mean, you were an expert at this, and there's all sorts of different software companies who focus on this problem or some version of it, and we could list them. But from your experience, what's the right tech stack for a distributed company?
Yeah, so it's less about what tool do you use, but more importantly, how do you use them together and why you use them, right? So, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, we use tools for synchronous and tools for asynchronous communication. So, synchronous, let's say, would be uh, a video live application such as Zoom, Google Meet, or Microsoft Teams. We also do in person. In person is important. We do it maybe twice a year maximum in my team, but we plan it ahead of time. And in terms of asynchronous tools, we use knowledge management system such as Notion. That really is the core of knowledge
Mm-hmm.
of the company. Knowledge is really important in a distributed environment because people can be in a different time zone and they have to access their work. So we really document a lot, and we have framework around that. We use recorded videos a lot. For instance, in my meetings, on my C-level meetings, and executive meetings, I do receive the updates ahead of time. Every Tuesday, I spend a couple of hours going through all the videos from each team. Each leader record that, and we have a specific format for that, and we have a specific agenda for the meeting. And there's a pre-reads that you have to read before and comment on and engage in. And then when you do the meeting, is like the most effective meetings I've ever had in my executive career, in terms of productivity and engagement and conversations. Because what you want to reduce the amount of reactivity people have in business. And when everything is synchronous, people are put on the spot. They haven't had time to reflect. They are reactive. They're less responsive. And you want to have a culture where people are responsive. And so by consuming the content ahead of time, engaging with it, there's no surprises coming into the meeting. You reduce surprises, and that's also important for the future of work, because why work have to be more taxing on your life emotionally? Already your life is pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
So like work is supposed to support your life. No, I mean, it's more than just a paycheck. I mean, you need the money, but you also spend at least 60% of your life working.
Mm-hmm.
So how can that massive activity that you do in your life be a source of fulfillment, a source of creation, creativity, a source of connection with other people, and without all the negative aspect of work, which is being reactive, having high level of anxiety, burnouts, having to commute every day a couple of hours, which is totally wasted time,
Mm-hmm.
and live in places where you don't want to live. I mean, some people want to live in cities. I loved living in London for 14 years and in San Francisco for 7 years. It was a great part of my life. Now I want to live near the beach in a remote island in the Mediterranean, and still run a billion plus business. I can do that. I don't have to be in a polluted environment where there's little access to nature.
Mm-hmm.
Work can be a well-being source for you. It has to be. That's the future of work.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with you there. How do you maintain culture throughout the company? I mean, you're in 80 different countries. I mean, how do you develop a culture, and how do you maintain that culture if the entire workforce is distributed?
Yeah. So first, culture is a changing animal, right? So you don't want to have too much control over the culture. You want to influence the culture and accept that it's going to change over the course of your business, for good reasons. Because what you need as behavior in the beginning of your journey are different when you are a late stage business, let's say. But how do you reinforce, how do you influence culture is by being clear about the set of values that with which you operate, with which you
Mm-hmm.
behave. The how is important, and the more you go up in the organization, the more important that leaders model the way for others in the business. It's also through communication. The way you communicate, the way you show up, is critical, and the way you embed these values in your decision making process and reiterate them and explain them. Um, it's also about how you relate to other people, because culture is about behavior. So the way you treat people is really important to sustain the culture that you said you are. Um, yeah, these are some of the things I've observed in my career.
Yeah, I think yeah, I think that those who push back on remote work, that seems to be kind of like the number one pushback, which is like, how do I maintain the culture? How do I maintain like these water cooler conversations, they call them, and things like that, like these kind of like just happenstance things that happen before meetings and after meetings. But you can't really control those either, right?
It's really about control, right? It's about the
Yeah.
need to control, the illusion that leaders are controlling things, right? Uh, that of course there's things that you need to control as leaders. I say your financial trajectory and the numbers and your strategy. You want to influence strategy, but everything else is an illusion. You cannot really control many things in your culture. You cannot control people's behavior. So not because you're in the office that these water cooler conversations are net positive to your culture. People could
Mm-hmm.
be chatting about toxic things. They could talking about politics in these water cooler conversations. So now, if you're talking about connection, it's a different story. If you want to create a culture that people feel connected, they feel belonging to it, then you need to engineer some of these experiences in the virtual world. Let's say we have these donut conversations where randomly people book me to chat with me. I do in every meeting I start, whether it's a one-to-one or we have an executive meeting, we do check in with people and ask them what is on their mind, what keeps them up at night, and make sure to understand the context that they are in, that they feel that they are part of a community. Um, it's more about belonging and rather than controlling.
Yeah, I like that. It's about more about belonging than controlling. That's actually pretty deep, and something people should write down. Probably I think that's a really interesting concept. What about, I wonder too, like, I mean, being in 80 countries, building the company that you're building, doing what you're doing. What have you seen in terms of mental health and the difference in employees' mental health and people's general mental health during COVID, post COVID? And are there some countries that you're seeing like, hey, they're doing better than others? Or, I imagine you have a really unique insight into the overall mental health of, the workforce of the world, interestingly enough.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a important topic. Look, mental health challenges are on the rise everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they are. We live in a world where uh, rate of depression is up, rate of anxiety is up, PTSD is up, addictions are up, and it's not, it's like it is expected. I mean, your pandemic was pretty rough period for many people. Uh, there are wars in this world. There's economical crisis, a high level of uncertainty and volatility that is impacting people's life. And there's also not a lot of awareness about these issues yet. There's more awareness, but it's not enough, in my opinion. So what we do at Oyster is we first we wanna have it, we wanna have data. So how do we have data? Is we use an app on Slack called Kona that enable us to check the sentiment of people, how they're feeling every day, and we
Mm.
aggregate that data and we look at dashboards and we ask ourselves questions: why there's a dip, why it's recovering, and so on and so forth. Secondly, is we have a dedicated Slack channel for mental health support. where people can share anonymously or not what they're going through. Obviously, most of it is not work related, and, and they get support from the community in that Slack channel. Myself is in that channel. I also do share sometimes when I need help from the community. So we create this nurturing environment where people feel safe to voice their issues, their challenges, and receive support. Um, and the future of work has a role to play in this, because we want work to be a net positive for people's life, and leaders have to, they can, it doesn't cost money, and they can change the way they behave, the way they connect with others, and show that it's okay to have challenges, because everybody have some of these challenges. So you need to show some level of vulnerability and be open about these things, so that others can have the permission to be open about this, right? Just by yourself, by modeling the way about these things, you can help people as a leader.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like, how do you lead yourself, Tony? Like, I wonder, like, if you, like, how do you maintain your work life balance, your mental health? I'm sure living in Cyprus helps. But
It does.
I'm sure that's pretty great for the mental health. But how do you do this? What does a typical day look like? How do you maintain your balance?
Yeah, so energy management is important for personal leadership. I don't work in the morning because my team is mostly in the US and in Europe. So I work in the afternoon and evenings. So I use the morning as an opportunity for me to do what I need to do in my life, spend time with my children, go for a swim, do my exercises. Uh, and in between meetings, I also have small breaks where I engage in energy fulfilling activities, such as playing music, for instance, or and I also, we at Oyster, we have what we call Focus Friday. It's a day where we don't have internal meetings, so it enables me to catch up on everything I need to catch up that week, so that when I go in the weekend, I totally disconnect, with few exceptions here and there. And that gives me the ability to really recharge my energy. I do keep myself, I do some exercise as well. I do a couple of Pilates sessions a week to stay fit on top of the swimming. And as important of all of this is minimizing reactivity. How can I be a less reactive human being, a less reactive leader? And and that requires some a journey of understanding why you're reacting the way you're acting. Is a journey of expanding your awareness of your reactivity and your emotions, and be connected with these emotions. So that's a journey that I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, I noticed the guitar. What is that guitar behind you? Is that a Fender? I couldn't see it very. What? Oh, okay. What is this? Is this a Gibson?
It's not. I don't know actually the brand. I'm pretty new to guitar playing.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Actually, let me check. It's a pretty famous brand actually. It's Ibanez. You know Ibanez?
Oh, yeah. Okay, very cool. Yeah. So, how long have you been playing? And isn't that kind of like, I've actually started doing a little bit of this myself, and it's so meditative, huh? To like kind of, because you have to be so focused, and it's kind of the only thing
Yeah.
you can think about in order to do it, or at least do it well. And I mean, has it become like kind of a meditative process for you in a way?
It is absolutely. Actually, I started playing recently in March this year, and I was doing like a retreat in the jungles, in the Amazon jungle, and there was a guy playing guitar, and for the first time in my life, I start hearing the music not with my ears but with my heart.
Mm.
And the next week, I was totally convinced I have to start playing guitar. And since then, it's I'm like something that I really look forward to right now. I don't play well at all, but actually it's the practice. It's just to be in the
No,
moment
yeah.
and
Yeah, it doesn't matter at all how well you play. It's like fly fishing. Like it kind of like catching the fish is kind of not the point. In fact, sometimes catching the fish is a distraction from just like the meditative, back and forth thing. What I have a couple more questions for you. What advice would you have for companies and leaders on the best ways to recruit remote talent?
so I think first is you want to make a decision that you want to go beyond 20 miles radius from your office to find talent, right? I think that's an important decision you need to make. And it can be scary for many organizations, but actually it's much easier than it sounds. There's a lot of recruiters in the world that are specialized in talent in many countries, depending on the skill set that you're looking for, the type of role. There are platforms that helps you find this talent, and we are partnered with many of them. And and you have to essentially once you find the talent, this is I mean, finding the talent is not really the hard aspect, because today there's many platforms that enable you to do so, and you have many companies have developed their interview process and their assessment process. So the challenging part is, how do you employ them? Now you found Mary in Athens. You want to hire her. She's an amazing software developer. Do you hire her as a contractor? Maybe she doesn't want to be a contractor, and maybe contractor is not compliant to hire her full time in Greece. Some countries are, maybe Greece is not. How do you know that? How much do you want to pay her to to give her a fair compensation? How can you give her equity in your business if you give equity to people in your business? What kind of benefits do you offer her? Do you want to open an entity in that country? Do you want to find lawyers, accountant, payroll providers, insurance companies? I mean, the list goes on. It's a pretty complicated process after you find the talent, and this is where Oyster comes in. Oyster solves all that problem for you. It's a software platform that enables you to make global hiring as easy as local hiring with a few clicks on our platform, and make sure that you are talent competitive and you're taking care of Mary in Athens the way you want to take care of her. Obviously, this is a marketing message. My marketing team will be happy, but essentially, this is how it works, right? So, for companies now, they don't have to anymore think about, hey, where should I hire before hiring? Okay, so before, if you think about it, you had to decide, hey, we want to open an office in Turkey, or I don't know, Argentina, and then we open an office, find a manager, and then that manager starts hiring local talent. That's a huge investment and a huge commitment. It could take 6 months to 1 year. Today, by changing the order of things, you don't need anymore to pick the country. You need to pick the person first. You need to find the best talent, no matter where they are, and then use platform like Oyster to employ them and give them great benefits and pay them compliantly.
What is the
Changes the
future?
game.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's incredible, and your marketing team will be happy. That was a great answer. Um, what is the future? Finally, what is the future of Oyster? I mean, is there plans to like, hey, we want to take this company public? We just want to keep executing on the current mission and just grow and get in more countries and get more talent. I mean, what is the future of the company?
Yeah, we want to make sure that we continue to align profit with purpose. So we're going to continue uh, enabling people from around the world to access the more equal opportunities. We've been experiencing pretty massive growth since the beginning of this company in 2020. We do envision a path to going public. I was exposed to public markets in my previous business, where we were public on the New York Stock Exchange. So we know how to do this, and we have a great opportunity ahead of us to do this. Specifically, that we are an ESG company, we are a mission-driven company, and there's a lot of capital in the market, in the public market, that are looking for companies that align profit with purpose. So we want to be a role model for other companies and other entrepreneurs, that being mission driven is actually great for return on investment. mission-driven entrepreneurs should be rewarded more than less mission-driven entrepreneurs. So that's kind of the ultimate goal, obviously not goal, ultimate milestone we're going to reach in our path to delivering impact. But along the way, many things could happen, right? So the moment we are heads down in ensuring that we continue to grow and we continue to execute until the opportunity arises. And today, with the way the market is behaving, the IPO opportunity is not going to be available for at least 12 months for companies like us.
Yeah, yeah. Finally, we end every interview the same way at CEO.com, where we believe the chances that are given are just as important as the chances we take on ourselves. I wonder for you or Oyster in your life, if there's someone who gave you a chance that got you to where you are today.
Absolutely. So I told you about the story of France and how I was able to. I think the French country, the government has made an important impact on my trajectory. I'm very grateful for these guys, and I would say I was fortunate to have met amazing people along the way that helped me. I mean, I can think of so many people. But I just was on the phone with Pascal, my mentor in my previous business, who was really a important coach for me in my leadership skill development, and a good friend of mine. I think he had a big impact on my leadership in my previous business that continues to pay dividend today.
Tony, thank you so much for everything you're doing, the mission of the company, and for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Clint.